All righty. I'm going to bring this up, hopefully. Okay, so you guys that were with me for the new moon, this is kind of some of the same information again. I'm just going to buzz through it just as a refresh. You're going to hear it a lot over the year. When we talk about moon phases in astrology, we're really talking about the math of the moon. That's how Jen and I were just talking, like, I'm done with this math already.
Witches don't want to do math.
Yeah. But I mean, that's astrology, right? There's so much math, there's so much science, there's so much art, there's so much, you know, like it's its own language and system, but chill on the math. Okay, so in the natal chart, the moon phase, so like in your birth chart, you are born under a certain phase of the moon, and that is associated with personality traits and like your energy levels, the way you emotionally process, and your parental relationship. So that comparing to the transiting moon, I'll use the word transiting or mundane, same thing, and that's the moon up in the sky, what it's doing at any given time, okay? So that's different than your natal chart. It affects your natal chart, but you are born with your own moon phase, okay? So the mundane transiting moon is the moon phase for the energetic flow of the collective. So what everybody's going through at the same time. And not every moon is important to your chart. Okay, so like some people born under the new moon phase, they're probably really fast go-getters. They like to initiate. Speed is a big thing for them. Initiating new projects, finding newness. Or people that are under full moon might be more about what's the word? Come out of my face. Contentment, finding contentment within the opposition. And then like bringing in, we can find things about your parents' relationship too, like were your parents really a team together, or were your parents really opposites? So it gets really exciting when we get into actual like natal chart stuff. The moon phases with magic now. People, witches, astrologer, whoever's using the moon to do weird stuff, they use the phases and the maths for manifestation based on how much light is in the sky at any given time. Sometimes you don't want the light, and sometimes you need all of the light. So there's a lot of different considerations of the intensity of the moon, the intensity of the light, the speed, how close it is to the earth, how hard it is actually affecting our bodies, and how long the cycle lasts. Some of these moons that are closer are quicker, and some of the moons that are farther are a little bit longer. So we look at all of these little math intricacies to do these magical elections. Okay, so another just a quick review of the lunar cycles we talked about. I'm gonna give you guys another one today. The monthly cycle, or the monthly cycle, is about 29. Did I put 29? I think it's actually 27 and a half, whatever. 27 to 29 and a half days. And that is where, we have all phases of the moon in just 1 month, like we're doing right now. We just did the new moon 2 weeks ago, and now we're at the full moon. Okay, so that's what we're doing right now, is the monthly cycle. But we have a greater cycle within that too, where it's a 6-month cycle. So when we started at that Sagittarius new moon just 2 weeks ago, we're going to track it for 6 whole months until we get a Sagittarius full moon. So that won't happen all the way until what I think it's the beginning of June next year. Okay, so we're already tracking that one with our notes that we've been writing down. We're already making our notes for next summer, and I have a good example of how that works. And then we have eclipses, which are 18 and a half, 19 year cycle, where the nodes of the moon. Do I want to get into more maths? They are mathematical points of the moon, and it has to do with the ecliptic and how close the all right, let me just do it, because it's going to bother my brain if I don't say it. Okay, so you know how we have the sun, and we have the moon rotating, or we have the earth going around the sun. Okay, we have one orbit. All right, but this earth has a moon going around it. So when the moon hits where the earth is going around the sun, there's a node. And then when it hits the other side, there's a node. Okay. So there's 2 cycles going on one time. So that's how we get eclipses. And eclipses also, I'm starting to look at it in a way where eclipses can be considered new moon and full moon cycles too. We might get into that a little bit next year. I don't know. It gets advanced, but it's like you just keep going down the rabbit hole, and there's just so much information that, you know, is relevant. So we'll see. But I want to introduce you to another cycle this month too, you know, as if I'm not giving you enough of this moon stuff, but you have your own lunar cycle based on your birth chart. And we're going to start playing with that. So all right, I want to give you an example of, like I said, the monthly cycle. Oh, Jen, did you have
Sorry, Dr. Stepp has a question. She says a node is an eclipse. She's asking.
A node, not the eclipses happen with the lunation cycles near the nodes. They have to be within a certain mathematical sign. It has to be within 20 degrees of the nodes. So there are 2 times a year that happens. We typically have at least 2 eclipses in each season. You know, usually it's spring, fall. Sometimes it's a little bit later, you know, like early summer, later winter. Sometimes we have 3 in one season and 2 in the other. It just totally depends on how the Earth is axis and the math, a lot of math.
She's asking, so a node is a mathematical relation.
Yes. And the nodes, they are also the symbology of the nodes are that they are very karmic points. Okay, I'll show you right on here. This is what the nodes look like, these little horseshoes. Okay, and especially in like Indian astrology, like the Vedic astrology, the ancient, they are all about these nodes. Like you can tell everything about the nodes. I use them a little less than that, but you can get a lot of information. But we can just say, like, there's a whole branch of astrology that deals with our soul's progression. Like we enter through the South Node. We enter our life through the South Node, and we go through our whole life's journey, and we exit through the North Node. So it's like this whole, you know, soul lineage. I don't really subscribe to that. I mean, there's a whole lot in between there, and there's a whole lot more nuance that we can pull. I can direct you to somebody else who kind of specializes in that stuff, but that's not, not really my thing. But the nodes and eclipses are very karmic points. Yes. Okay. So here's another example of the new moon that we just went through November, just 2 weeks ago. Okay. We had a new moon at 1 degree of Sagittarius. Okay. And the full moon we are coming up to, is it tomorrow? I don't know what day it is. It's tomorrow, Wednesday, the 7th. Well, I guess it'll be maybe the 8th on East Coast time. It'll be overnight. So the full moon is when the moon is opposite the sun. So the full moon will be in Gemini. Okay, but let me show you an example of the greater lunar cycle, which I said was the 6-month one. Okay, so if we have the moon, we have the full moon in Gemini, we need to find the beginning of that cycle. That cycle began in May. Okay, so right off the top of your head, can you remember anything that was going on the end of May? I think this is Memorial Day weekend-ish. And is that
That's when we were on retreat.
We were on retreat the right beforehand. Yeah, we were on retreat during eclipses, actually. Now I'm thinking of all the things. Sorry. So anyways, can you guys think off the top of your head what you were doing at the end of May that is maybe coming into fruition right now with this full moon? I'll give you a great example using my husband's chart. Oh, well, I'll get to an example in a minute. Yeah, okay. We're going to be doing greater lunar cycles a lot in Stars and Spells because I just think it's so valuable to manifest on the long-term scale. Okay. So the full moon phase is all about completion. Like we've done all the work already. Now it's time to, I don't want to say sit back and relax, but yeah, it is rest time. The flowers are in full bloom. You know, they're going to be going to seed, or you know, they're going to start fruiting. We're done with the preparation of the soil and the fertilizing. Now we can, I don't want to say expect, you know, but we're at the point where there's nothing else that we can do. So the lunar energy is at its brightest. It's at its most reflective. Symbolically, all of our truths are illuminated and exposed. Ooh, that could be a little touchy. You know, the truths are illuminated. Okay, either this flower is going to turn to seed or it's not. Or my seed that I wanted to manifest is either going to come to fruition or not. Oh,
Jen S has a really good example.
Oh, tell
She
me.
says, I think that's when I started my Reiki training, and now I'm doing training to volunteer at a hospice to do Reiki on the patients who have given consent.
I love that.
Mhm.
Good for you.
Mhm.
Good for you. Good for you. Love
Thank
that.
you.
That's some spirit work right there. But
Great.
yeah.
Oh yeah. The
Awesome.
synchronicities
What an
were
amazing
incredible
thing
for
to
that.
do.
Yeah.
Mhm. Follow those synchronicity spirals, they will lead the way.
I did my last Reiki healing on the day that my dad died, on the anniversary of my dad's death. And that was not planned. None of that was planned. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm on the right path now.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
it. Divine timing, right? Divine codes.
I have a question.
Yes.
So is that like if there's a new moon ritual you do, and you're looking to manifest whatever you're doing as a ritual on the new moon, is that like you're saying the full moon is a closing of that, like it's going to either determine whether or not your ritual is going to come into fruition, or is it completed, or is it both?
Well, it is the last effort that you can put into it. It is the last work that you can do to make this seed thrive. Okay, so really at the first quarter phase is when we're at the first crisis point. So by the time we get to the full moon, we've already gone through is this going to happen or not? Do I need to adjust or not? So by the time we get to the full moon, it's pretty well, we expect that we're done. It's happening. We did all we could, you know, we're going to get the best result that we can for the crisis that we adjusted through. Does that answer?
Okay, so that does.
Okay.
I'm wondering, like, if it's like a last kick in the butt you can give to get that manifestation completed, or we're just waiting. Okay.
Yeah. So at the full moon, at the point where the full moon becomes like, it's a real quick second, the full illumination, and then we start losing light. So it's a real quick thing. We're not staying in full moon light, you know, we're building light for a really long time. But when we get to the full light, it's like that. It's over. It's done. So full moon is about completion and ending and starting to go into the rest and starting to go into the reset of the next cycle. So what do we have left to tear down within the cycle? You know, what do we have to put to bed here? You know, with I always use the examples with planting and farming, like, all right, we have the flowers. Now what? Do we have to cut them down? Do we have to redo the soil all over again? Are we waiting for another growth to come through? You know, yeah. So this is when our the energy is at its at its fullest potential of the cycle. So if you don't like where it's at, we could always do it again. We could always, you know, do some better intentions and seed planting and preparation and things like that. Yeah. So truths are illuminated and exposed. Is that the weakness of the intention? Is that the, you know, is that the exposure of where we started with the intention? Did we try to manifest through victimhood, and now we're being shown that, you know, it's highly reflective. Okay. So like I said, it's the completion of the cycle, what needs to rest.
That's just, sorry, really quick. That's a really big point that she's making. to not register those things as, oh, I did it wrong, it's not meant for me, right? If those shadows are coming up, it's just, hey, it's something to look at here that might have stopped the manifestation the last time. Let me really get in and look at this, and so I can hit it again in a more empowered state. That's actually a really big point. I just wanted to flag that.
Yeah, and more importantly is like manifesting on the right moon for you with the intentions that you have. Just using the regular mundane phase because it's there and it's math. Jen and I were just talking about this. We're like, we're not doing that anymore. We're doing our own. So, and astrology is all about timing and all about your timing. So that's my next point. Like, I'm going to get to the lunar returns. We talk about, like, with full moon, we do the cleansing rituals and we charge our crystals and we do all that because it's the full moon and it's the full light. Well, what does that do for me? Does that affect my chart? Are these crystals upset because of how I worked with them? Like, do they really belong to the moon? Like, I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. I am anti put your crystals out and make your waters. I am all about, does this moon affect you? Do you have do you have a relationship with this energy? Or are you trying to take this energy from this moon as a stranger to your chart? So I want to introduce the idea about your lunar return. Everybody has their specific moons in their chart, and it's a very sensitive point in your psyche, in your body, in your emotional sense, in the way you relate to people. It's your whole inner world. Why wouldn't you want to be aligned with your inner world versus the point that everybody else is staring up to and reflecting off of? So yeah, we're going to play with personal lunar returns. How's that? Okay, practicality, full moon phase. We're sleeping less because there's less melatonin, because there's more light. There's a lot more frenetic energy. Is that because we haven't been resting? Or is that because we haven't been making ourselves rest? Or are we just taking advantage of all the extra light, right? Lunatics, that's a word, that's a real word, that's a real condition. Okay, the full moon phase also, like, let's celebrate the completion, right? It's not just a cord cutting and purge. We're not purging yet. We're celebrating the end. Purging comes into after the last quarter phase when we're disseminating. Hair cutting. This is a good time to trim your hair if you want your hair to keep growing or grow faster. And hunting. Remember, I used this example before. Wild animals move a lot under the moonlight. So be careful when you're driving the mountain roads during the full moon. And farming with the full moons. The flower is at its full bloom. The fruit will be ready to be harvested at the last quarter phase. And then eating habits and dietary change. We're going to track this throughout the year. I'm going to start asking you guys if you start, just eating the moon.
Eating, which we used to talk about eating the sun, right?
Yeah.
Real quick, Christine is asking, will we cover lunar return in stars and spells?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to show you definitely, like, as you're filling out your stuff and you're tracking it daily, you're going to be able to do this for yourself. But yeah, I wanted to do like one little webinar on moon phases, and now it's turning into like 4 parts in my brain. But yeah,
Love it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you guys are
We love it.
You guys are gonna love me when I'm like, okay, go back to November 29th at 1:00 and go back to June 15th and put it together. What was happening on the same time? So I'm
guys,
yeah.
It's much easier if you just fill out your books as you go, so she doesn't have to yell at us all.
I'm gonna say, okay, go back to Facebook, go back to your phone records, go back, ask your boyfriend, go back to your work.
It's always for good reason to put all of this stuff together. You will learn so much through these cycles. So fill out your books. Talking to myself too.
And the moon is incredibly, like, I know this is tedious, but this is what's going to give you the information that you want. This is going to be the hardest hitting, the most personal pattern recognition. And I can't do this for you. You have to do this. I'm giving you the blueprint. I mean, you can even just like take a picture of your day and slap that on your, print out a little picture. And that's all I need to know, right?
Yeah, this ties in. Christine is asking, what is the type of stuff we should focus on recording?
Just daily activities, nothing crazy. Like my husband hurt his back. I ordered from 2 different companies and I made an error. I got distracted socializing. I made a wrong turn on the drive, like things just stick out that disrupt your day or make your day. Or, I have a lot of things about what I eat just because I'm real foodie. Did we go out? What were we celebrating? Did we get cookies? Did I make something? Did I try a new recipe? Like I do a lot of that. Or I talk about how I slept, or am I feeling ill? Did I get into a fight? Is somebody on my mind? Like just whatever's catching your attention. And it'll be all relevant, I promise. Like, and don't feel like you're going to miss something, because if it's important, you'll probably catch it the next day.
Yeah. And Jen S says, I'm deep into pattern recognition. It's been exhausting and exhilarating.
Yes, Miss Virgo placements. I have my eye on you, Jen. Yes.
I love that.
Okay, so I'm gonna get into my husband's chart because it's a good one for this big lunar, the greater lunar cycle. Okay, so mundane versus personal. So like I was saying, not every moon is important for you. You don't have a relationship with every single moon. So some things to track is the mundane moon, where is it going through the houses? You will know which moons are sensitive to you. Okay, like let me just tell you about the personal, what did I call it? The lunar returns. Okay, so the lunar return, which is the personal moon. He was born with the moon in the 1st house in Capricorn. We're talking about a moon in Gemini. Do you think that affects his Capricorn moon? No, but there's something else in his chart that does. So if I'm tracking lunar phases, I'm going to say, okay, Capricorn moons are important to this guy. I might even go exactly opposite and say, oh, Cancer moons are important to this guy. And I might do a straight cross up and down and say, oh, Aries and Libra moons are probably important to this guy. So that's something to track. Mundane tracking also just generally the 1st house moons, or moons that go over the ascendant or go over your sun, are probably more important to you as well. And lunations closest to natal planets, especially the chart ruler or the time lord. I don't think I've even talked about the chart ruler. We've talked about the time lord. We'll get into that with starts and spells.
My favorite.
Within the webinars, yeah. And I'm not going to have you guys focus on that so much, but like just hearing, just recognizing, oh, that's my time lord. Oh, that's my chart ruler, rather than like really looking for it. So this guy, we have a full moon. Do you remember at the degree? We have a full moon at 16 degrees Sagittarius. That's where the sun is. And then we have the moon at 16 degrees Gemini. What do we got here? We have the nodes. So there's something important and karmic to this man. Nothing else is really, I mean, Jupiter's close by. That's kind of important. Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. So there's something here for him. So let me show you what we got. All right, this is a greater lunar cycle. So this is when the new moon happened, okay, at the end of May. The new moon was here in his 6th house. 6th house has to do with your work, your daily routine at work, your coworkers, what you are kind of really in service of. Okay, it was in his 6th house. He just started his new job June 1st. Day after this. We had just moved across country. We were just moving into an Airbnb temporarily, and he started working the next day. Okay. I don't even need to go into all the little fine details right now. What are we talking about right now with the full moon? Okay, we go from the new moon. The moon is still in his 6th house, but we have some illumination coming from the sun over in the 12th. So what is the sun shining onto this moon and reflecting. Now we're discussing his next job already. He's here for 2 years. We're at this contract for 2 years, but we're already discussing at the full moon cycle what his next position is going to be in a year and a half. That's how quickly this crap happens. And also, when we moved here, we're in a rental house right now because we knew we were only going to be here 2 years. We didn't know if we were going to stay long term. We wanted to, but you know, we're trying it out. And now we're already talking about, are we going to buy a property? Are we going to buy an investment property? Are we going to buy, you know, an Airbnb to rent out? Are we going to, you know, or do we want to be moving again? It's so like, you see how quickly this stuff goes on. Also, we can talk about Time Lords now. So at this time, during the new moon, his Time Lord was Jupiter. And where is the sun right now? On Jupiter. Okay, so there was something here with Jupiter. Now his Time Lord is Mars. Now we have Mars on a moon. Isn't that interesting? Now we go back to May. What was Mars and Jupiter doing? They were together. Now we come to December. Jupiter and Mars are in their full moon phase. Can't make this shit up. And I mean, we can go even more and more and more and more detailed, but you just see how simply, hey, I started a job, and hey, now I'm talking about my next job. It's the same cycle. Would you have thought of that? Would you think, you know, what you started 2 weeks ago on the new moon, that you're going to remember it by next June? You will now. You will now, because you see how it works. Okay, so any questions so far? I can't see anything.
I was just waiting for any to come in. Nothing yet.
Okay, so I need to make this a little smaller so I can move it around. All right, so I want to talk about this full moon. Okay, I don't love it. Just being honest, I don't love it. We have the full moon conjunct Mars. That's rare. It's rare that it is so close. And it is rare that Mars is at its farthest away point from the sun right now, the absolute farthest it can go. So it's rare that we have a full moon right on it. Mars is retrograde and Mars is at its halfway point. So if you guys have been with us through some of these last Mars and Gemini webinars where we're like, oh my God, Mars, 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 we are finally at the halfway point, and I think I'm dead. I think I'm dead right now. I didn't even make it. I'm not even there. So just checking in, how has Mars been for you guys? We're almost at the end. We'll be having another webinar in January when Mars finally turns direct. God. Okay, so Mars is at its halfway point of the retrograde. So we could say it is at its strongest, it is at its slowest, it is at its most pronounced. And we have a full moon. What does a full moon do? Illuminates, makes things bigger, shines the light on. So we have this nice exclamation point on top of this Mars as well. What is Mars energy all about? Action, combustion, aggression, assertiveness, action. Are we all completely burnt the hell out by now? Ay, ay, ay. Okay, so Mars and the moon. What did we say about the full moon cycle? We're at a completion point. What do we need to end right now? What is burning out? What is expiring? What is too hot to handle? What are we done with? I like this specific moon to cord cut. I like this specific moon to put a strong end to things, but I'm really cautious of this moon with other people. I'm really cautious of this moon with conflicts and fighting and aggression out in the real world. However, at the same time, conflict can also be healing. So this isn't a moon to go pick a fight with someone, but it is a moon to say, hey, I didn't like that you said that, or that really sucked, or, can we come up with a different solution here? But it's very tense. It's super duper tense right now. You see the protests in the world going on. That has to do with this moon talking over here to Saturn, which Saturn's either going to really ground us and give us some stability through this heated conflict, or it's going to be the direction that we're putting this conflict to. So like think of authority figures and government and, people that are restricting you, bosses. So that sucks. And then also, what do we have? So when we talk about the rulers, the ruler of the sun is Jupiter, and the ruler of the moon is Mercury, and they are in square with each other. That means conflict. Anything Jupiter touches makes bigger. And Mercury's all about mental and mouth. We're making this really big mouthy argument. Everything is exaggerated right now. This is not a moon to go play fun with. This is a fuck around and find out kind of. So I don't love this moon for the normal, let's put this stuff out, make the waters do all the things. This is a very weaponized kind of moon.
Right, because sorry, can I just, I don't know if it's a statement or a question, but so if somebody is really being affected by the conflict and that's what is illuminating for them, would you say that's kind of the same energy that will be put if they are putting things out in the moon and trying to work with it in that way?
Well, yeah, because it's all reflection, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all reflection. And especially with Gemini, here's the thing with Gemini energy is, yes, it's all about duplicity and multiplicity, but it takes a very evolved Gemini to handle all of those facets of themselves. Gemini is very projective. Gemini is very, I am one way and you are the other. Already, they're like that. So this moon, I mean, you're gonna hear it. You're gonna see it on the news. You're gonna hear your friends. You're gonna see it at work where I have this opinion and I'm right and you are wrong. Or, like it's gonna be very, I don't think like we're gonna start fighting each other, but I think mentally and philosophically, like battles for sure. And it's short-lived, but it can have, the sting can linger. We can be a little hungover from this energy of, oh my God, I'm just so drained, and maybe best case scenario, you're just tired. That's fine. We're just burnt out for a couple of days. That's fine too. I would say at that point, do not push yourself to keep performing, because then we're going to get into injury. I also have a good example of that as well. So this Mars energy, I would normally say, let's do some physical release. If we need the kind of release, let's do some actual working out. But I caution during the full moon, especially, when it's really heightened there at night. I caution doing any kind of hard workouts or anything like risky or anything different, I do worry about injury. I have a friend that just broke her wrist, horseback riding, Sagittarius thing, right? And Mars and Gemini wrists, right? And she was just screwing around. She wasn't in competition. They were just, doing something careless. So anyways, this is very energized and aggravated energy. Anything that we're trying to do right now with it, we're going to have to redo. It's very frustrating in the things that we're going to have to redo. It's not constructive and it's not gentle. Know that. Conflict can eventually be constructive, but it isn't at the beginning. All right. I have some notes that says this is the most dose of Mars that we're going to get. It's all pent up pressures, arguments, mental tensions, We can see people like starting to join movements. You'll start seeing that. We just saw that in Mongolia starting to happen. And you know, this idea of the too muchness, you know, it's too much, like Twitter is too much, the news is too much. Oh my God, Twitter is about to, isn't Twitter just entertaining and crazy? And this is what it, yeah, that's, anyways. Okay, so Tracy doesn't like this moon. Now what? Did I just screw up my manifesting for the full moon? Got you covered. I have better moons for magic this month. They're actually really lovely. So the 10th, I like the moon on all day the 10th, and especially in the evening. But when the moon comes out of Gemini and goes into Cancer, it's a very strong moon. It's very lovely. It's all about rest, enjoyment, family, food. Probably feel the soul food. That's I always know how to plan. I always know how to meal plan when the moon is in Cancer or the moon is in Taurus. It's my food moons. Okay. And it's its last application to Jupiter for the next 12 years. So Jupiter is at a very critical degree, and it's the biggest it's ever going to be for another 12 years. And the moon connects with it. So that's a great transit. Okay. Another good moon is on the 17th when the moon is in Libra. Okay. And this one is good because it talks to the ruler of the moon, which is Venus. So that one's really nice. And that one's good for celebration with others. It's very lovely. The love is in the air. Celebrate with others, unity, closeness, one-on-ones. It's not really like big groups, but it's, you know, connecting. So I really like these moons better than the Mars moon. So that's what I got. Yeah.
Okay. Christine said, how do we know what our food moons are? I want to know what mine are too. We got to start
with
tracking.
Taurus and Cancer. I guarantee it. Taurus and Cancer are going to be your first ones.
And Dr. Steph says, interesting. I got no to work out for today and tomorrow. And Jen says she's burnt out. The synchronicities are the only things keeping her going. She said, my kids are on each other's last nerves and won't quit. That makes so much sense in my life right now. She says, is there anything we can do to calm the aggressions, or are we supposed to work on it in a certain way?
You know, I think that's gonna end up being personal. I mean, recognizing that you're in the tension is already mitigating the tension, right?
Right.
It's mitigating how you choose to react. All right. So that's step one. And that's a huge step. I would say, like, if you wanted to do herbal supports or like meditation kind of things, I would look at cooling herbs. I've been using rosemary a lot through this Gemini moon. I've been taking nettles and skullcap and lemon balm and all the nervines for my poor little brain. And I'm loving it. Not medical advice, but what can you do to cool off the tension? Like, are you naturally a person that needs to get it out of your body? You need to work it out, or are you naturally a person that needs to go calm down? I would say play on your strengths rather than trying to change yourself.
Got a couple more. Dr. Steph says, what if Mars and Aries are big players in your chart?
Then this is a strong moon for you. Is
that blue I just heard?
It's all of them. Hey, these are my kids fighting right now.
Right. Right.
All my little pets are ruled by Mars too, because I have it's the ruler of my pets in my chart. So yeah, a Steph Aries moon. Yeah, you're gonna be feeling it. I'm gonna say even the Aries risings, the Aries suns, Scorpio risings, probably Scorpio suns are probably going to be pretty tense. Who else would I think? Sag and Gemini is kind of always run a little chaotic. I hate this, but it's not abnormal for me. Vedic, I'm an Aries sun. Okay. It's interesting with medical astrology, how it actually overlaps between the two systems, how you can be a totally different sun in one. And, you know, it's fascinating. I don't know how to put all that together. I think it's so many moving parts that I stick to the system that I know. But both are extremely valid.
Okay.
And I would assume the Aries people would need to exert energy, where the Scorpio people would need to kind of work on it internally. Who else am I thinking of? If you have a Mars in Sagittarius, get on the elliptical. Just keep walking, just keep running, you know. Same with Mars and Gemini, get it out of the body.
Hey, we have a couple more questions. Kristen says, how do we know what moons belong to which? Lunar calendars? She's asking, how do we know what moons belong to what? I think she's like talking about, you know, the moon in Gemini, or if I'm understanding correctly.
So in Stars and Spells, I have a lunar calendar. Can you see this? Where I literally put the moon is in Taurus today for these 2 days, and then the moon moves into Gemini.
And so for those that are not in Stars and Spells, is that something they can, is there a resource you know of offhand? Or
yeah, I mean, you can go on astro.com or AstroSeek, but it gets like, you got to know some stuff. I think there's some, didn't you have some moon journals? Is Moonology a journal like that you have, Jen? I know there's one called like
yes. No, Moonology would be a good one.
Okay.
There, I have 3. This is the 2021. It's the closest one to me, but it will have all that information, and it'll tell you month by month.
But that doesn't go with your chart though, right? That is
right. That's so, yeah, no, very good point. This is the generalized. Yeah.
Super
I did ask earlier, like, is it too late to start Stars and Spells, or
No.
is that something that I could
we
play
must
catch
have
up
missed
with?
that.
Well,
Yeah, I'm just a little bit behind, but I mean, this is like super intriguing. So
There's so much info.
I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah.
I'll put the link in. We have 3 different tiers available. We have space, some space left in tier 3 if that calls to you. Anyone else, I'll put the link here in Zoom, and then I'll also throw it in Facebook as well. Good question.
Okay, so Christine says, my moon is in Aquarius. How can I figure out my moons and food moons and all the things? Or you just got to write it, and then you start to see the patterns. This is step number 1, actually just writing about your day and not even thinking about it. Okay, I think I want to start maybe February, start having you guys sit down and go backwards and start tracking, you know, highlighting the similarities kind of thing. And I'll walk you through it, and we'll do it a few times in a few different ways so that I can really pull some information out of you guys and like really give you something productive. Like I did this, I pulled, I don't know what that is. I pulled mine from a couple years ago, and it was, I don't even remember writing this stuff. And it was like, who is this person? Like just some of the stuff that I pulled out, like this is a day where I find my pattern is just to like window shop because I'm not connecting with my body. What? You know, or like my sleeping habits are really different during this kind of moon, or like my body, my digestion is really different, or my husband is always really active during this moon, or like I have one sugar addiction eating moon. But I really remember my dreams, and I need alone time, and I'm walking a lot, and I like to be near the lake, but I need to be clear, the house in the head, you know, and I'm like, I don't remember any of this crap. I don't write that on a daily, you know, on my daily thing. How did I pull that out? But you start to read between the lines and see your own patterns, and you're like, there's no way I did that. You did. You did. It's exciting. So this is going to be the start, is you actually tracking yourself. And I'm going to come in, you know, between the readings and the webinars. I think I really want to focus on the webinar to give you all of the information to try to do it on your own, but I can definitely pull it out of you during the readings. Or I even want to do like some just open office hours and just be like, come talk to me. What do you need help with? But I'm telling you, the moon stuff is tedious, but it's like everything you need to know about yourself. If I didn't do this, I told Jen, like, I don't want to do the moon stuff because it's going to be so much this year and they're going to kill me. It's like, but they need it.
They'll thank you later.
Yeah, you'll thank me later after I'm like, did you do your homework? Yeah.
That's a normal reaction. I always thank her later.
Yeah, thank you later. And then, and then we'll be able to see. So not only are we just looking at the signs of the moons and like what kind of energy the signs bring in, then we'll start looking at your specific chart and see if it has to do with the houses. Are you really foodie when it comes to your friends? Or are you a person that you're only foodie when you're by yourself? That's a big difference. What am I doing with all that food? Am I nourishing myself or am I nourishing the group, or what, why the difference? So it's really fascinating. It gets really, like intimate. You look at all of your dirty laundry, it's fascinating. So you learn a lot about yourself.
I'm gonna have to start tracking Butch. He said he wanted a milkshake today, and we only get treats on a Sunday, and it's a Tuesday.
Was it before noon?
No, I was right before the call.
Oh, okay.
When I get off the call, he wants to go get ice cream.
Okay, well, maybe it's in his chart, but I was going to say if it was before noon, it was because it was a Taurus moon.
But he did have donut holes.
Yeah. I got a little cookie. I had pasta last night. I had, all the carbs. So all the
Kristen says, I'm a Taurus. I'm always
Yes.
food nurturing everyone.
Yes. I have a Taurus moon. I have the best moon. Anybody else Taurus moon? Anyways, so that's what I got for you guys. I wanted to, point out that sometimes we get off the math, we go wayward with astrology, and make a relationship with it.
That's a place we don't want to be wayward, right?
Yeah, we don't want to relate to what everybody's doing with a cycle. We want to know our own cycles.
Yeah.
Any questions? Taurus moon, bougie. Yeah. It's not that it's bougie. It's just, it likes its certain quality. It doesn't have to be the best quality, but it has to be the Taurus's best quality. It's got to be the right.
Hey, I have a Yeti family.
Stop it. You want to see my dirty little birthday present? Get a Yeti mug.
It's a good birthday present.
It was the right weight. It was the right size in my paw. Leo moon. Thank you. Oh, good night. Okay. So yeah, guys, we're gonna we'll wrap it up for tonight. So don't kill anybody on this new moon or full moon. Remember my meme about no fighting, no fighting, no fighting. Let's try to just get through it. Just wait a day if you can. Or
This would be where the sacred pause comes into
Yes.
play, my
Yeah.
friends. Just take a pause before you react out loud.
take a breath. Yeah.
I had to
Somebody
really
check
learn
on my
that.
husband. He's not okay.
My husband threw out his back. So, yeah. Yeah, we're having fun. We're having fun. This one sucks. This one really sucks. This is a sucky full moon.
I'll tell you though, you know how I always talk about, I feel the energy usually 3 days before,
Yeah.
So I started to go into the suck yesterday into some old cycles, and I just conjured up this sheer determination to be done with that aspect of myself, right?
Mhm.
And I worked on it all day. And today I feel very much on the other side of it, because I showed up for the work, and really what worked for me, I had to remind myself this 75 times, but I just kept saying conscious creator, conscious creator. I kind of created this experience that then was starting to, I was starting to go back into old pattern with it. And so that's what really reminded me was I consciously created it, but you have to continue to consciously create, right? So anyway, all that to say is if you really just put in that mindfulness and that determination, conjure up some of that inner warrior to do that work, you can get to the other side of it without doing things you regret later and acting in a way that's out of alignment for you now, right? It's out of alignment for me to show up as stressed out, super cranky, can't handle it Jen. That's she be died, right? So put in the effort, you guys, and you'll feel really good on the other side of it. It's a fight, it's a battle. That's why I say warrior. You're gonna kind of battle yourself a little bit, but it's worth it. And you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
Sacred pause.
So I have a weird question before you guys end this, because I'm kind of like, just like I said, dipping in. Well, I'm probably going to start the stars and spells because hooked. But so my question is like, what if I don't relate to anything that's going on? Like you're talking, there's like aggression and like all of this, like I'm not feeling like, I don't feel like I'm ever in sync with that. Like I feel like I'm more of like in an anxiety, stressed out kind of headspace. And like where I tend to kind of like not cower, but like hide behind it all. And then I just don't really, does that have anything to do with my sign? Like, because the Taurus is like constantly aggressive anyways. So I'm kind of like, I'm wondering if I'm just doing the reverse. I can't relate.
Well, no, I mean, anxiety isn't that far away from action, you know, and we're talking about Gemini, which is a mental sign, and mental action and mental aggression. I mean, that sounds a lot like anxiety.
Yeah, Dr. Seth said inner aggression.
Yeah, I just saw that. That's
a great way to explain
that.
Mm-hmm.
And
exactly.
Taurus, so here's an advanced thing. Taurus is next to Gemini, so it doesn't see it. There's an annoyance there. There's an annoyance that it's like the head and the shoulders, like I can't see what you're doing. You know, so it's not like, it's not in your face. It's not opposite you. You know, it's not the person, you're not facing it head on. You're facing it from the side. And it's just something that's annoying. So there's that already in your chart without even looking at your chart. There's already that. And then depending on, you know, there's 12 other aspects in your chart that can say, no, I'm just level-headed all the time. Or there could be something that says, you know, like you're saying, cowarding. That's just the exact opposite as assertiveness. I mean, that's still a Mars issue. If I'm running away, that's still a Mars issue versus I'm running into the fire. It's the same thing. So it's just how you experience it. Still action.
It's a good question though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Very illuminating, right?
Yeah. And I would love to even play, like, if we got all of our charts together and we can just say like, you know, we have a ton of we have a ton of Scorpio risings here, and we have a ton of Virgo risings. They're going to be totally different people, you know.
Weren't you seeing some of the same signs signing up at the same time? That was fascinating.
Yeah, I was like, oh, the Tauruses are coming today, you know. It was cute, but I'd like to just show you guys how all Tauruses are different, or a Taurus moon versus a Taurus sun. Like, we're not just one thing in our chart. We are like, I don't know what the smallest number of aspects in the chart is, like 140 different aspects. So we're not just one personality, we're all the different things. And I was even studying psychological astrology and getting really deeply into the personality traits. And there are some things in the chart where like, I am one way and I'm the other, but they do not intersect at all. And it's like, do I have split personality? Or like, when is one working and when is one the other? And you can even see when one is activated and it's to its point of conflict, the other one jumps in. You know, it's not a continuation of the good twin, you know, and the evil twin, or, you know, whatever, but it's fascinating. It's fascinating. So call them aspects of our personality. Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's what, you know, I'm hoping. So like with stars and spells, I'm really hoping for you guys to learn your relationship with astrology. And that is not taught. You know, you can go to an astrology teacher to learn astrology, and sure, you can learn to read your chart, but you don't learn how to have a relationship. You don't learn how to engage. Like, I've been studying this for 5 years, and I'm just now in a practice where I'm like, oh my God, it's real. Like, I'm just not learning a thing over there. Like, I am the thing, you know, like I am part of the thing. We're things, you know, like I love my thing. So anyways, that's what I'm hoping that you guys really get this year. Really the hands-on, in-depth part of self. So like that you're coming to play with me. With us, coming to play with
I
us.
know, and I'll pop in with magic here and there.
Well, yeah, and
Taking
really
that, because that's really how
Yeah.
I've been able to digest, learn, understand, remember all of this astrology is through bringing it into my magic and working with the planets. And I didn't even, Tracy had been telling me about Saturn all year long, but I didn't really realize just how much I was working with Saturn until, you know, here pretty recently.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's how I really learned to embody it, was through bringing it into my magic. So
Right.
I'll pop in with that for those that are interested in the spells part.
Yeah,
of it.
and that really deepens your relationship. Like, you know, me just learning it through a book, it doesn't, how do I apply that to life? How do I apply that to my meal prep? How do I apply that to, you know, my decisions? When I know my decisions are astrological, I can see the pattern, but how do I consciously engage with that at the real time? So that's what the spells part, you know, how to act. It's the
And
divination.
it's the divination, right? And it's not just spells. We've got the correspondence, and for my tarot readers, that really also that help deepen my tarot practice and my learning of astrology at the same time, right? Putting all that together. And we'll have, you know, I don't know if we'll have recipes every single month, but we have a little moons and spoons section. When we have recipes come up, we feel called to share. So bringing that into the kitchen and just everywhere in life. Kristen asks if you have any book references.
I mean, there's 10,000, but
and
I
we
mean,
were going to do some of that, right? For in Stars and Spells that we talk about having.
I
come
might when I
up.
get, when I get into like certain topics, when I do like webinar stuff, like I definitely will, but like with just the transits and the forecast and hey, look out for the day to day, maybe not so much. But Kristen, like I wrote a book. I wrote the forecast for the year. Like I wrote every single day, pretty much, of what next year is going to be. So that's the forecast part of the book. And then we have the journaling part of the book. And then we have the Book of Shadows, which also corresponds time-wise and, you know, energy-wise.
Yep.
So yeah, the Stars and Spells forecast is a complete, call it a prediction if you want. We call it a forecast or like an almanac. Like here's how the weather is going to show up. And it's not like this person's going to walk in your door on this day. It's going to be, hey, here's an invitation for this energy, you know, or here's an opportunity to go engage this, you know, so it's general, but you'll be able to apply it. Hopefully.
Yeah, and you don't have to know anything, right, about astrology going into it.
Right.
Some of us don't.
Mhm.
I know a little more now, but this was designed for really everybody to get something from it. And I imagine, you know, in the Mars and Gemini, I know Tracy, you had a link to a great YouTube video,
Yeah.
and I think you had thought of a book then. So I'm sure she'll be really good about that as things apply, you know, throughout the year.
Yeah. I mean, I literally have like 10,000 around me right now, but.
So my last book purchase was the Astrology Bible. And it's so funny because I was kind of like skimming through it all right before this. And I didn't, like, I hadn't really, all I thought this whole webinar was going to be just like, oh, full moon, like, let's talk. And I didn't know that it was for the Stars and Spells thing. So it kind of like, I was going through the book and stuff right before I jumped into this. So
she's like, I gotta learn this real quick.
No, I saw the charts and I was like, oh my God, that's a lot of lines and numbers and degrees and oh my God, that's a lot of information.
Yeah. I'm not gonna overload anybody with astrology stuff. Like I will still go through it and say my technical language, and you might pick up a few things here and there, but I am by no means hoping and expecting and trying to tell everybody how to do these things. So, you know, I've given you your charts in your, we will be emailing charts, and hopefully, you know, when I say, oh, well, the moon is over here, and then you look to see, do I have any planets over here? And maybe you start recognizing that, or start recognizing what these houses mean, or, you know, in the readings, every month I'm going to be going through one house in your chart really in depth. Astrologers do not do that. Promise you, I've paid thousands of dollars to astrologers and have never gotten readings like that. I'm not saying like I'm going to be the best thing, but I'm saying like getting exposure to parts of your chart that will otherwise not be recognized. Like, hey, that's a big deal. And going in it deeply month by month, and by the end of the year, we're going to go through every single nook and cranny and hit it. And
And this course, the Stars and Spells, it teaches you how to do all of that for yourself as well.
I mean,
I
you
think
gotta
you'll learn
engage.
it through, yeah, you have to
Yeah.
engage. And I think you'll learn it a lot through exposure, because she'll keep directing you, go look at your notes here, and here's the cycle, go look at your chart here.
Yeah.
So I think, right, is
Okay.
that fair to
Yeah.
say through the
It's not a
exposure?
It's not a study. I'm not teaching you astrology. This is real time through the day. Like I have an opportunity for aggressive energy. All right, let me look for it. Where is it? You
Like
know?
learn through experience kind of a thing.
Yes, exactly. This is definitely an
Okay.
experiential course for sure.
I think that can I add
Okay.
here? Because I think that what Tracy brings is an understanding of how your houses affect what's your main sign for the time, and how like your sign kind of changes and how it affects your actual sign, like the one that we're familiar with. So like Tracy's really good at like helping you understand, okay, well, this is happening, but you're in your 4th house. And like, okay, well, what does that
Okay.
mean? You know?
Yeah.
So Tracy's very good at explaining all of that. So you'll probably gain an understanding of like what the houses are for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, I have a little dog yelling at me, going Mars-like. Any other questions before we pop off, guys? I'm excited to play with you in a couple weeks.
And really quick, I will be sending out the full moon book of shadows. Speaking into, alignment of what Tracy's been talking about here, is do what you feel called to do. There's shadow work in there, there's cleansing, there's releasing, there's bringing in some optimism if that's what you need. There's tarot spreads, all sorts of stuff. So use what you feel called to. And that's why there's kind of so many options there. You don't have to do all the things. And if none of it feels, calls to you, you might want to do that optimism of Sagittarius spell when you're in June. Who knows? Maybe you need to bring in some of that energy, right? So keep it handy, and I will get that sent out to the email list and post in the group as well. So,
and I really liked her tarot spread. It has to do with the actual full moon and kind of like cutting off the energy, closing it down. I really liked your tarot spread for that. And then when we get going with the webinars, like we're just going to be throwing out a million different options. This is a good moon to go do this thing. This is a good moon to go do, and like I have 35 people on this webinar. Like I'm not talking to everybody individually. So if you have a calling to this ritual, do it. It is calling to you. There is something, for you there. So you don't have to do 100% of the things. Do what is important to you. And then of course, when I get on your actual chart, if you're, signing up for the readings, I will be like, all right, this is the one, let's focus right here. But if you like it over here, go, you can go play with that one, that's fine. But here's your big lesson for the month. So.
Isn't that nice to have that hand delivered to you? The big lesson you're supposed to learn for the month? That sounds great.
I wish I had me for the last time.
Right,
I don't know where she's been.
It's been, it's been really helpful for me. I'll tell you.
I need an astrology friend.
You gotta have an astrology friend. Yeah. All right. Jen says, I'm so excited. We are too. We're so, oh gosh, we're so excited. I don't see any more questions in the Facebook chat or here. So I think we can adjourn if there's no more questions.
All right. Lay low for the next couple days till the moon is, till the 10th. 10th is a good day.
Sacred pause, my friends. Sacred pause.
And then we're going to have another group ritual. This is we're gonna do like kind of Saturnalia, kind of solstice, talk about that chart. And then we're gonna start blessing our binders. We're gonna do a nice little group ritual with that. So, and that's gonna be on the 15th.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm gonna be working like Santa's little elves, getting the readings out. I already started them, and then I was like, no, I don't like any of this. Starting over. So, can't make up my mind.
Take 2.
Now that Mercury has moved into Capricorn, maybe we can make some decisions now, right?
Right.
All right, guys.
Friends.
Have a good night. Survive.
Yeah. And if you have any
Thank you,
questions,
guys.
you know where to reach us. Yep. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.